I'm oblivious to it. I get caught doing other things. Okay, so we're going to add two concepts here, axis of a curve and amplitude. The first two concepts we've already done, but we're going to start writing down the numeric answer for it. So period, we already talked about. Repeat a pattern. Now, I always do period from a peak to a peak or a trough to a trough. It's just easier to kind of get. Okay, and sometimes you just pick a nice number that you can work with. Maximum's the highest value, minimum's the lowest value. These two here we're going to plug into our table that we did before. The axis of a curve is the horizontal line through the middle of the curve. So, for example, for this graph here, the axis of a curve, if you think about the axis of anything is where it rotates around, like the axis of the Earth or anything like that. So the axis of a curve here would be line. Oh. Oops. Is right down the middle. Now I'm going to fix my line because that's a big boy. All right, let's make that a little bit smaller. Okay, axis of the curve, how we find that is we add our max, our min values, and we divide by 2. In this case, if I was doing this, so my axis is max plus min divided by 2. So our max number is 1, our min number is -1, divide by 2, which equals 0 divided by 2, which equals 0. So that means along the 0 of the y-axis is our axis of the curve. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? So essentially, it's the middle of our curve. Put a Y in chat if that makes sense. Oh, they're still quiet. Abigail's there. I mean, Haley's there. Okay. Our amplitude refers to the distance from the axis of the curve to the peak or trough. And how we figure that out is max minus min divided by 2. Okay. So we go, so our case here would be 1 minus -1 divided by 2. That equals 2 divided by 2, which equals 1. Remember, negative and negative make a positive. So that means our amplitude here is 1 from middle to top and from middle to bottom. That's our amplitude. Okay? So let's go back into our notes to self and we'll write that in. What's the exact wording of axis of curve they use? I want to use the exact same. Horizontal line through the middle of the curve. All right, so this here is max plus min divided by 2. I'll make that blue. Okay. And that here is right here. We got hard blue here. There's our axis. right there. Okay. The big thing there, make sure you have that formula written in. Max plus min divided by 2. So axis of the curve. If this time you could spin that curve around, it would stay balanced. Okay. Put a U if you're thumbs up, you understand that concept, or put a D as in I don't understand it, thumbs down. Okay. Or if you need some more clarification. I can't emphasize more that you need to make a sheet that looks like this for today. It'll make your life so much easier. Okay. So amplitude is distance from the axis to the max. What do they call max again? The hill and min. And that is max minus min divided by 2. This number is always positive, okay? This number is always positive. Let's go red. And then if I were to identify it here, I have some red marks already on here. So this is my amplitude here, and that's my amplitude there. So amplitude, distance from the axis of curve to the max and min, and this number is always positive, and the equation is max minus min divided by 2. Okay, so from the top to the middle and from the bottom to the middle. An axis of a curve is the horizontal line that cuts the curve in half, and we go max plus min divided by 2. Okay. I'll wait for Yosan to tell me she's done writing that out before we move on. Okay, everyone should have this written out because it'll make the next, your homework part, so much easier. In unrelated news, they're paving the road. Not our road, but the road across the street, which is kind of exciting. My daughter's taken up rollerblading, which she'll appreciate a smooth road. Done? Perfect. Anyone else need time? Oh, Jackson. Okay. Jackson, do you have your phone out that you can take a picture of this real quick? Or take a screenshot of this? All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at different graphs and then interpret this information. Okay. So which one do I want to do first? I'm going to hop around here. Let's do this one first. Okay. So these will not always be in degrees. They'll be in different values. Okay. They'll have different values depending on the situation. So I'm going to walk you through the first one here. My period. Okay. So what's the period of this graph? So we're looking for And you can tell me if you guys need this blown up a little bit more, or if that's okay. We're looking for a period, how long it takes to go through a whole rotation. So I'm going to go from max to max. So I'm going to start here and go here. So what's the distance here? Down here is 1.5. It's going to go here to 7.5. So 1.5 to 7.5. So that is 6. I could take the larger one off and go 7.5 minus 1.5 equals 6. Okay? So that's my period there. Put a Y in chat if you understand how I got that. Okay? But more importantly, put a N in chat if you don't understand how I got that. Okay. Now next I'm going to do my max. Okay, Andreas. So I'm looking at Andreas. I'm looking for a period means how long it takes to go through one full rotation. So I'm going to identify 2 spots on my graph. The top spot and the top spot here. Okay? And I want to know in terms of an x value in time or whatever the measurement is, what's the length of this line? So what I did was I came down here. Okay? And I realized it starts at 1.5 and it ends at 7.5. I know those numbers, these are the smallest numbers I have. So then I went 7.5 minus 1.5 equals 6. So the time it takes to go through one full rotation is 6. Does that help you out, Andreas? And we're going to do like 6 of these. Okay. Now our max value, we're just going to take a look here. What's our highest value? Is 3.5. And my lowest value, my min here, is negative 0.5. Any questions on that? Put a Q in chat if you have questions about that. Okay. Now our axis of a curve. If you remember our equation for axis of a curve, it was max plus min divided by 2. So if we want to do that, we're going to go 3.5 plus negative 0.5 divided by 2 equals 3 divided by 2, which equals 1.5. Which means if I go up my graph here, if I cut the graph in half right here where my purple line is, that's my axis of the curve there. Okay, cuts it in half horizontally. Okay. What color did I use there? Now my amplitude, any questions on that? Put a Q in chat if you have any questions. Besides that, we're good. And now my amplitude is max minus min divided by 2. So that's 3.5 minus negative 0.5 divided by 2, which would equal 4 divided by 2 equals 2. So that means it goes down 2 and up 2 every time. After that first one, how's our understanding of this? Out of 5. How would you rate your understanding of figuring out the max, the min, the period, the axis of curve, amplitude? Okay, good. 3 is a good number. We're above halfway. We're going to do a whole bunch of these. Okay. Let's do this one now. Okay. So I'll do, this will be the last one I do together, and then I'll give you some freedom to go ahead. If you think you can work ahead with it right now, go ahead. So first thing I'm going to do is my period. So I'm going to identify my two tips. Actually, I'm not going to do identify my two tips this time. I can identify my bottoms because they're right on the numbers. Okay. So it goes from 90 to 450. So easy thing for me to do, oops, is I'm going to go 450 minus 90 equals 360. That gives me my period. Whenever I pause right now, put a Q in chat if you have a question about how I got that. Okay? So no questions about that one. My max, I just take a peek at what my highest number is 50. My minimum, oops. My minimum's right here, which is at 0. Any questions about those two? Now my axis of a curve, remember the formula is max plus min divided by 2. This one's easy since it's 50 plus 0 divided by 2. 50 divided by 2 equals 25. So if I drew a line straight through the middle, and it kind of makes sense to kind of draw a line because I can eyeball it. Do those two sides look equal? Does this look the same size as that approximately? Yeah. If I drew a line, if I got a line like there, I drew a line there, I could look and say, okay, I'm not the middle. Right? Something's wrong with that answer. Okay. And then lastly, my amplitude. Oops. Let's go brown. Nothing says boring like brown. Max minus min divided by 2. And it just happens that this is the same. Which kind of makes sense. It goes up 25, goes up 25, and down 25. Now we're learning these basics right now because we'll be able to interpret graphs later today and tomorrow and what they mean. So how are we doing with our thumbs here? Thumbs up, thumbs down. So U for up, you're understanding it. D for down. Right potato if you have no idea what's going on. Okay. All right, so this here is a graph on, this is a sine function. I'm gonna move this over here. I will zoom in some more. About temperature by time of the year. Okay, generally temperatures will follow a sine function. This is the beginning of spring. Temperatures go up in the summer, and they fall and they go down into the winter, and they come back up for spring. Okay, now just a hint, there's how many weeks in a year? Anyone tell me? That last dot would be at 52. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to work ahead and see if you can get, now the numbers might not be exact. The numbers I pull off this graph might not match exactly your numbers. Like if you think it's 72 and I might say 70 or so on. Okay? So I will give you 3 minutes to do this. Is that enough time, Ben, or not? Oh, is Ben there? Tessa, is that enough time, 3 minutes?
Wait, how many minutes did you say?
I was going to give you guys 3 minutes to do the answer for these.
Is
that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Tessa volunteered to give us all the answers when she's done too. So who's not here now?
Mr. O,
Yes.
for the min, would the answer for min be 40 or 10?
10. That's the minimum value, right? That's the lowest
Okay.
point on your graph.
True. Okay.
Okay. Good question. You can spy what do you think 40 is going to be approximately? What value is going to be 40?
Maybe.
What number? What period, max, min, axis of the curve, or amplitude?
Maybe amp.
Not quite amp, but axis. It kind of cuts in half, doesn't it?
Oh, true. Okay.
Right? You can kind of eyeball sometimes, and then you can do the calculation and see if it's right.
Cool.
Put a D in chat when you're all done. That'll give me an idea of where everyone is. Abigail. Where did Gabe go? Gabe did show up to this lesson, didn't he? And then he left, or he never showed up? Just one person done so far? Tessa and Riley, you guys almost done? You're done? Okay. Let me start up then. So our period here, as I kind of explained before, we started at 0 and went to 52. So it's going to be 52. In this case, you could even say 52 weeks because it has a value here. Okay. Our max value, I'm going to say 70, just because it'll give me a nice number to work with. Our min value is 10. Okay. Our axis of curve, we're going to add them up, divide by 2. 70 plus 10 divided by 2 is 80 divided by 2, which equals 40. So that kind of cuts it straight in half. Then my amplitude is 70 minus 10 divided by 2, which equals 60 divided by 2, which equals 30, which makes sense because 40 plus 30 equals 70. How did everyone do on that? Give yourself a mark of 5. How many did we get right out of those 5? Good. Good. Okay. Abigail, do you mind me asking which one?
The period one.
Okay. Would you say 50?
I thought it was like the highest point minus the lowest point.
Okay. So generally with period, pick it now. With some of them, you'll see like multiple curves, and you pick like 2 of the same point. The only curve that repeats here is kind of that middle line for this one. That's okay. Let's see how you do on this one. So let's do the same thing for this graph here. Okay. This here is the height of a tide. Okay. This is the height in feet of a tide going in and out of like a beach or a bridge. Okay. Let's just consider these 8 and 1. Okay. I don't want, like, it says 8.57. If they all round off, they're all going to be about 8 and 1. Okay. So let me give you time with this one. Does anyone want assistance to go through this? Does anyone want to be talked through it right now as other people work ahead? No? Okay. Put a D in chat when you're all done, and I can start her up again. Did you come back this lesson? PJ's here. He's here. Kovats. He's here. Logan. Yep.
But Mr. O, you said the test is going to be tomorrow, right?
Correct.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I made it last night. There's 4 multiple choice. Then there's 2 triangles to solve. And then you have 2 word problems to solve. Then your thinking task for that is going to be like a take-home thing. So it doesn't have to be done at that time, but it's going to be something you do. You could probably, some people will finish it within, like, before we start lesson. But if you don't finish it, you can just hand it in after.
Okay.
Okay. Jackson's here. San Vito's here. Jadine. Not here. Tang's here. Yosin's here. Tony's here. Oh, we lost a bunch of people between first lesson and second lesson. You mean period, Abigail? Is that the question you have? Okay, give me 1 second here. I just got to change one thing. All right, so for period, what I would do, now this isn't exact, so it's going to be a little bit off. I'm going to pick the 2 highest points. So I'm going to pick this point and this point. You could also pick 2 lowest points. It doesn't matter. Okay. I just fixed it there, Andreas. I saw you come in and I switched your attendance. Okay. So if I take a look, this happens at like 12 a.m. This happens a little after 12 p.m. Okay. So I'd say like that's maybe 12 hours. I could, if I was marking a test like this, I would take 12 hours, or I'd even take 13 hours as a okay response, because it seems to be a little, it's not hitting exactly the same time. It might be a little bit to the right. So 12 hours, 13 hours would be the same would be a proper answer for that. Does that help, Abigail? All right, I'm gonna start working through this. How many people are done? Or put a W in chat if you want to wait, want me to wait a little bit before I start working. Do I have anyone that wants me to wait? No? All right. So my max value, oops. My max value here, as I said before, I'm going to round these all just straight to 8. Okay? If you're a little bit off 8, that's perfectly fine. My min value is right here. I'm going to round those to 1. And then I can do my formulas. Max plus min divided by 2 equals 8 plus 1 divided by 2. 4.5 is max of the curve. So if I look around here, looks about right. And then my other one's going to be max minus min divided by 2, which is 8 minus 1 divided by 2 is 7 divided by 2, which equals 3.5, which makes sense. Because if I just double check it here, I go 4.5 plus 3.5 equals 8. And that's my high number. All right. Do you guys want to go through another one? Or do you guys feel comfortable with it right now? I have one more we could go through. Put A in chat if you want to go through another one. And put a, okay, do one more? Perfect. All right, so right now, what I'm going to do is tell you, if you're comfortable with it right now, you can go to your work. Week 4, Wednesday practice. I think I gave you 3 questions on this. There's a Ferris wheel question, a velocity during exercise question, and then one you may have to sketch out yourself, okay? Unless you can kind of figure out the numbers here by yourself of what everything is, okay?
What time do you want us to come back?
Let's aim for noon. Okay,
Cool.
and there's only 3 questions. Should only take about 15 minutes to finish off these. And then that will end us so we'd be done all our work. We'll be done early this afternoon, but that'll let people have time to ask questions for tomorrow's test. Okay, so if you're comfortable, go through and do that. And for people who want to do one more, let's do this one. So this is temperatures in Central Park. Temperature in Central Park over the year. Okay. Now, Abigail, this is one of those ones that doesn't have a second wave. Although logically, temperatures and months kind of go together. So you're gonna have to kind of pick like 2 spots and kind of guess where it is. Andreas, do you want to work through this one with me, or do you want to try to do it by yourself and then I'll do it? Is anyone else working through this? You have Andreas working through it? Put a, oh, okay. Is there anyone else working through this one besides Andreas? I don't want to rush ahead if you're working through it. Abigail? Okay. So Abigail, when you're done, put a D in chat, and then I will go through it. And Andreas, what are you eating? I think it's a sandwich of some kind. It's a very Andreas thing to eat, I think. Okay, so now my numbers may not exactly be like your numbers, Abigail. Omelet with an egg McMuffin. Nice. Did you work this morning, Andreas, or is that from work some other day? Oh, nice. All right. So, period here. I can kind of guess that the period is going to be 12 months or 1 year. Okay. It's not perfect because here it's still kind of going down. So I'm going to guess it's kind of like 12 months to 1 year is going to be the period. My max number, and if you don't, Abigail, if you disagree with me or with any of these answers, just tell me right away. My max number is right here. So I'm going to say that's 88. It's a general guess. If I give this to you on a test, I'm going to make it very specific. Okay. My minimum number here, let's say that's 36. Now, if your numbers are like 1 or 2 off, my numbers, that's perfectly fine. My axis, I'm going to add these together. 88 plus 36 divided by 2. Oops. So that's 124. 124 divided by 2 is 62. I'm going to sketch it right here real quick, just to double check myself. It looks about right. It's kind of hard to see with this graph. And then my amplitude is 88 minus 36 divided by 2. Is 52, which equals 26. Oops. And I can check that real quick. I can go 62 plus 26.
Wait, Mr. O.
That equals 88. So I know that these two line up. Yes, Andreas?
So are you just like allowed to guess the 88 and the 36?
In this question, yeah, because it's not exact, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing really exact. Like if you would have said like 87 and 35, that's perfect. Now in a question like this, where it's like clearly right on that line, then yeah, those have exact answers.
Are
right?
we going to be seeing the ones that are right on the line?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be right on line. Now, if we go to your homework, let's do the last question together, Andreas. And Abigail, you can join in if you wish. Oops. Wednesday practice. So the first two kind of land right on the line, right? 1.6, negative 1.6, that's what, 15 and 1, right? This one here, if we look at this one, we could graph it to figure it out, but we could also kind of look at it. Right? Let's figure out our max and min. We're gonna leave period to the end. Right? This is hours of daylight and days of the year. Well, how do we find the maximum number here? Looking at this, looking at the y values. Can you tell me what the maximum number is? So if we're looking at maximum number, all we have to do is look for the biggest number, right? Well, a little bit bigger, 15.4 is right underneath it. Right, but 15 is pretty close, right? So that could be our maximum. And what's our minimum out of all these? Good. 9.3. Now, since we know these two numbers, we can figure this out, right? Because axis is max plus min divided by 2. Amplitude is max minus min divided by 2. So we can figure these out using that formula. And period, if I'm looking at hours per day, right, I can make a general guess that my period is going to be what number? How many days in a year? Yeah, 365. Right? So sometimes we can look at this data and kind of pull it out. I won't give you anything like this on a quiz or a test. I don't even think I'm giving you guys a test on this. You guys have like a little assignment to do for this instead of a test. Okay?